So the CVX is one of the newer budget IEMs from KZ, and it seemed to go under the radar just a little bit, although it's just around 20 euro. So I thought it may be an option for quite a lot of people who want to get into the IEM world. And I thought, yeah, time for a review here. So let's just start with build quality. So these are completely made out of metal, no plastic to be found here. That makes them noticeably heavier than most IEMs, especially in this price region, but they do feel a lot more sturdy that way. Design is always a matter of taste, but I think they did a good job here and made them neither too boring nor too fancy. By the way, I like the direction KZ is going with their designs of the backplate of their IEMs. They keep using these vents here. Autofocus. Yeah, you can see. They keep using these vents in different shapes or forms or just different arrangements. And I think that looks pretty cool. It's a cool design choice. It's unique and it's not too flashy. Well done here, I guess. This thing also has just one dynamic driver, so if you care about that, there are no balanced armatures in here. Furthermore, you could just get the typical KZ cable. It's not especially good, but it's also not bad. It's kind of mid-range KZ cables like the PR2, for example. It feels just like a light version of this cable, just a little bit cheaper, but it's fine, especially in this price region. Just to show you some more angles here and to show you the design. Yeah, there you can see how it's like completely made out of metal. I don't know why they included this little handle thingy here. I mean, it looks kind of cool. So I have had some issues with comfort here. First, you only get memory foam ear tips with these, and they do not really seal well. So I've tried silicone ear tips, which are on the CVX here now, and they worked a little better, but because you only get the foam tips and for review purposes, I put the foam tips back on again just for the review there. And these damn foam tips really, again, do not seal well, and you will lose most of the base impact. And I think because of the weight, they are more prone to falling out, and they just somehow do not feel really secure. The fit is just a little weird. Also, the hook of the cable kind of pushes the IEM more out of your ear than in your ear. I guess you can fix this with like a heat gun, but it's just a little annoying, you know, out of the box, and there's so many issues there with comfort. I've tried several materials, again, like foam tips, silicone tips, and it fits now. I still have a slight feeling that these push themselves more out of my ear and the seal is not really like perfect, but it's okay now. And again, these are quite heavy, and even with the right fit, these barely get an okay in comfort from me because the combination with the not secure fit and these being heavy makes the issues with them being kind of loose more apparent there. I've never had so many issues with an IEM before regarding comfort and seal, so that's kinda annoying. I don't know why they only put foam tips in there. That's just kind of a weird design choice there. I don't think these are really comfortable. So these are part of the newer, more balanced V shape that KZ uses for some in-ears to get away from their like earlier crazy bass and treble heavy IEMs. I would also say these are for people who get bored when the tuning is too neutral, but they do not want a huge boost in the bass region either. It is kind of in between. So they have a good elevation in the bass region, mid-range is just a little bit recessed, and treble is boosted but not annoyingly so, at least I guess for most people. So let's start with bass here. Instruments like bass guitars and kick drums have a good punch and do not drown out the other frequencies. I was listening to some Children of Bottom, Insomnium, and Machina, and it was neither too weak nor too overwhelming. It's quite fast, and the various bass notes do not melt together, like everything separates itself surprisingly well. But listening to some Agrotech and EBM, EDM, I did miss some more body and just lower bass presence. That's funny because looking at the frequency response, there should be no problem here. But so you should have like a fairly well present sub bass there. But listening to these, you have this mid bass punch and the bass hits, but there's like nothing around, like not a lot of rumble or just fatness of the bass notes. It almost sounds too flat or too clean there. This is also not a warm sounding IM. Again, you have a lot of punch there, but I keep missing some counterpart to the strong and somewhat harsh upper mid range. Again, going into the mid range, instruments are displayed quite clean and full sounding, but going into the upper mid range and the treble, I've read different opinions. Some listeners were saying that this is an inoffensive sounding IEM, and some were saying that it is the opposite. And for my part, I definitely support the latter. Like, this is not a relaxing or fatigue free IEM. The upper mid range is still okay, like, your instruments have great attack, but going into the treble region, female voices stand out quite a bit. Like, there's no sibilance or piercing sounds. It is just that the overall frequency region seems too sharp for me. Like, the attack, kind of the aggressive presence there, and the directness of, for example, electric guitars, which I mentioned in a good way, gets mixed with an annoying edge like all the time. Funnily enough, I especially noticed that when the drummer hits the snare, like, snare hits are heavily pronounced, and for me it's just over the top. This is what I meant when I said I keep missing a counterpart for that intensity, because the upper register is in the foreground all the time. But I have to repeat myself here, and I think that the weird seal that it's not really there for me half the time is the issue here. And this is why this kind of upper ear gain region is just too much there. So it's maybe different for you, but I found them to be really annoying here. And although the treble is emphasized so much, it does not sound very airy. Like, the sound is not as open sounding as you would expect. I am pretty sure you can fix at least some of these things with different ear tips that make these seal well for you. But to be honest, it was already pretty exhausting to find ones where I can get like an halfway okay seal. So I really did not want to like buy additional ear tips just for these CVX here. On the technical side, these are pretty average for the price. Imaging is neither better nor worse than the other alternatives in this price range, but I do thought separation of instruments was pretty okay, like nothing special, but it also does not muddle together. You can usually tell everything apart from each other here. So at the end, just to make some short comparisons here, this kind of feels like a 7Hz Zero with bass, but it has kind of the same problems. Yeah, just the overall harshness in the sound. In comparison with the Tangsu Warner, the Warner is definitely softer and has kind of a fuller bass and more pleasant treble, but also sounds less clean overall. But for me, the Warner has definitely is definitely the better sounding IM here. Both of these, like the 7Hz and the Warner, are way more comfortable than these. So that's it with this review. I hope I could give you some information here regarding the KZ ZVX. And yeah, if you got this one for yourself, then just tell me in the comments how you like it. Maybe you do like it, maybe you hate it too. Maybe you have some issues with comfort here like me. Just tell me everything. See you next time.